Therefore, effective immediately, all national security tariffs under Section 232 and existing Section 301 tariffs, they're existing, they're there, remain in place, fully in place, and in full force and effect. Today, I will sign an order to impose a 10% global tariff under Section 122 over and above our normal tariffs already being charged.
What did you mean a moment ago when you said that the Supreme Court has been swayed by foreign interests?
Well, I think that foreign interests are represented by people that I believe have undue influence. They have a lot of influence over the Supreme Court, whether it's through fear or respect or friendships, I don't know. But I know some of the people that were involved on the other side, and I don't like them. I think they're real slime balls. And got to do what's right for the country. You got to do what's right for the Constitution. That's why I respect so much Justice Thomas and Alito, Kavanaugh.
Oh, there we go. There's my microphone. Okay, that's better. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Rescue Michigan Sunday Night live stream. 15% now the global tariff rate has been set. And Donald Trump thanks you for your attention in this matter. Although he didn't say that actually those tariffs only be in place for 5 months before they have to be reviewed by Congress. But never mind that. Foreign influence on the U.S. Supreme Court. What countries? Who knows? Russia, maybe. Russia. I don't like it. Trump does not like the Supreme Court. Who appointed those idiots? Who appointed Neil Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett? What a disgrace. If only Trump had made some... Oh, that's right. It was Trump. If only Trump had appointed some different people to the U.S. Supreme Court. You know, I've got a feeling, folks, that Alito and Clarence Thomas are thinking to themselves, you know, I'm going to probably need to resign before Trump's term is up so that Trump can appoint my successor, because I sure don't want a Democrat appointing my successor. And I want Trump to be thinking, I want to appoint another Clarence Thomas to the bench, not another Amy Coney Barrett. Which is a good thing. I mean, that would be a good thing, I think. But yes, the Supreme Court has struck down Trump's tariffs, which it has to be said, if Trump had not like every day just come out and said, and I'm going to tariff so-and-so because he spoke to me the wrong way. It may have been a different outcome at the Supreme Court. In fact, it was really actually, it was Howard Lutnick who was standing right behind Trump, who kept saying, we need to, you can use tariffs as a weapon. If Trump had to weaponize the tariffs, if he just said we need to bring our industries back, if he hadn't been just like day after day levying different kinds of tariffs, it might have been different. In fact, let's look at some key elements of, this is from Neil Gorsuch, one of Trump's appointees, of course. And he went after like all of his colleagues on the Supreme Court. By the way, hey, Mark, good to see you. Good to see you in the chat there. And folks, I believe we are live on X, although I've got a notification that X is having problems with my streaming software, but I think I saw that I'm live on X tonight. I hope I am. And am I live on Rumble? Let me double check. Hold on, folks. Yes, looks like I am. Good. Okay, very good. I'm live in all places, I think. Mark says, I think I've been too hard on me. Mark, thank you for the kind words. But don't worry, man. You're fine. Not a problem at all. I don't mind people arguing with me at all or anything. Anyway, this is Neil Gorsuch, and he really kind of goes after a lot of his colleagues. He does actually call out the liberals on the court. Because they're talking about the issue that in the way that the Supreme Court justices see it is that this was what's called a major questions doctrine issue. And the issue is, can Congress just blanketly give Trump unlimited tariff power? And so he says that, yeah, they probably could do a point. But anyway, he says, past critics of the major questions doctrine do not object to its application in this case. And they even join much of today's principal opinions, but they insist they can only reach the same result by employing only the routine tools of statutory interpretation. And that's the liberal judges, Jackson, Sotomayor, and Kagan. He's calling them out and saying they made the right decision for the wrong reasons. But then he also, and here he talked about Barrett, or talked about Thomas, Alito, and Kavanaugh. Says still others have joined the major questions decisions in the past. And then they're saying, this is different. What you guys ruled? There's this great decision they made, the Chevron case, right, where they said all of these crazy regulations that the president never authorized are invalid because they were not really authorized by Congress. He says, you guys have joined us in the past in saying that they can't just delegate all this authority to the executive. But here, for some reason, they're dissenting. And he says, finally seeking to sidestep, this is Thomas, seeking to sidestep the major questions doctrine altogether. One colleague submits that Congress may hand over to the president most of its powers, including tariff power, without limit. Now, do you guys remember during the lockdowns in Michigan, like one of the big things that people were arguing about was that not only does Whitmer not have the power to shut down the whole state using the Emergency Powers of the Governor Act, but that in fact, legislature can't just give the governor that level of. You can just say the Constitution says the legislature has the power to tax, but they can give that to part of the president if they want to. But for some reason, people are now suddenly okay with like Trump abusing emergency powers in the exact same way, because the law that they're looking at is it's called the International Emergencies Executive Power Act, I think is what it's called. And that's what Trump's been citing, is like, this is an emergency. Our trade deficit is an emergency, which he kind of undermined by then just saying, oh, I didn't like what the president of Canada said, so I'm going to tariff him. And it might have been a completely different result if that had happened. So anyway, so Gorsuch comes in with this. You're going to read the whole thing yourself. But here's what he says here. Before us, the president insists that he may use the IEEPA to equalize foreign and domestic duties, or not. He may use it to negotiate with foreign countries, or not. He may set tariffs at 1% or 1,000,000%. He may target one nation and one product, or every nation and nearly every product. And he may change his mind at any time for nearly any reason. At least as I see it, history, this is Neil Gorsuch, history dating back to near the founding does not support the notion that presidents have traditionally enjoyed so much power. More nearly, history refutes it. And then there is this absolute burner of a finisher. In fact, I think Thomas Massey just tweeted, he's like, here, I'm not going to bother commenting because you just take what Gorsuch said right here. It's perfect. For those who think it's important for the nation to impose more tariffs, I understand that today's decision will be disappointing. All I can offer them is that most major decisions affecting the rights and responsibilities of the American people, including the duty to pay tariffs and taxes, are funneled through the legislative process for a reason. This is why the Constitution was designed to not have an all-powerful executive. Yes, it can be tempting to bypass Congress when some pressing problem arises, but the deliberative nature of the legislative process was the whole point of its design. Through that process, the nation can tap the combined wisdom of the people's elected representatives, not just that of one faction or man. Their deliberation tempers impulse, and compromise hammers disagreements into workable solutions. And because laws must earn such broad support to survive the legislative process, they tend to endure, allowing ordinary people to plan their lives in ways they cannot when the rules shift from day to day. And he's just hammering his colleagues. Like, this is crazy. You can't just change tax policy for the whole planet day after day. He says, for some today, the weight of those virtues is apparent. For others, it may not seem so obvious. But if history is any guide, the tables will turn, and one day, and the day will come when those disappointed with today's result will appreciate the legislative process for the bulwark of liberty it is. In other words, yeah, guys, Republicans might not be in power forever, and we might not want a Democrat executive citing this case to say, I have unitary power to impose taxes on anybody on the planet that I want to. So I have to say, I am pleased with the decision that the Supreme Court came out with. Now, there was a little side story to this, which is that guy we saw standing behind Trump in the clip suspiciously often is Howard Lutnick, his commerce secretary, which in this case, he should be behind him because it's a commerce-related thing, right? But anyway, there's a lot of stories on the internet that Lutnick's children, who now run his former capital investment fund, I guess they have allegedly they bought up the rights to get refunds in the event that the Supreme Court struck down this case. I don't know. I don't know. I've seen some articles going back and forth about this. But, you know, I mean, the weird thing, I mean, first of all, isn't it weird that this is even something you can do? Like, yeah, you can sell your rights to a refund in the event the Supreme Court rules that this tax was unlawful. That seems crazy, but, you know, I guess it is. Anyway, Trump himself weighed in. This is Trump's legal analysis. And here is what Trump says.
But I am allowed to cut off any and all trade or business with that same country. In other words, I can destroy the trade. I can destroy the country. I'm even allowed to impose a foreign country destroying embargo. I can embargo. I can do anything I want, but I can't charge $1. Because that's not what it says. And that's not the way it even reads. I can do anything I want to do to them, but I can't charge any money. So I'm allowed to destroy the country, but I can't charge them a little fee. I could give them a little 2-cent fee, but I cannot charge under any circumstances. I cannot charge them anything. Think of that. How ridiculous is that? I'm allowed to embargo them. I'm allowed to tell them you can't do business in the United States anymore. We want you out of here. But if I want to charge them $10, I can't do that.
Yeah, again, the problem stems from the fact that he used this power so egregiously and you know, to weaponize against countries and so arbitrarily that the Supreme Court to say, you know, we can't, this can't continue. But Arnold Bertrand made an interesting point. He says a lot of people are dunking on Trump for this. Yeah, because by the way, who says I can destroy a country? What kind of psycho says that? But he says there's indeed a learning in the fact that the U.S. president can indeed completely destroy a country economically with sanctions and embargoes without congressional approval, solely through executive orders, as he's currently doing with Cuba or did with Venezuela. But he can impose tariffs, which is genuinely bizarre. You can literally starve people to death, but slapping a 10% fee on their goods is where U.S. democracy kicks in. Well, it's not democracy. It's the Constitution. It's the rule of law. You know, it's the system that we have. But anyway, by the way, on a random off topic that I don't know why I brought up, but Jason Mickelborg asks, why does the Libertarian Party of Michigan want to abolish ICE? I don't know that that's even true. I'm just posting on the screen because Jason asked. I have no idea if that's true, and if it is true, I have no idea why. So there's the answer to that question, Jason. Anyway, back to the topic we were talking about here. Thing that Trump is not doing in this term, they did a lot in his last term, which was fire people. Like, why is Howard Lutnick still his commerce secretary? He's given him terrible advice that's led to a sitting Supreme Court defeat that has upended his policies. And there's this, have you noticed, remember the first term, Trump was just firing everybody when they did anything wrong. He hasn't fired anybody ever. And like, that's the best thing to do if you get in trouble. Someone under the bus, you know? But it's weird. Whenever staffers make him look bad, he just lets him carry on. But okay, I guess. So anyway, all right, real quick, since this is happening, it's kind of a emerging story. Mexico's on fire right now. Don't know if you guys heard about. Real bad right now. Okay, it looks like I'm back. I'm back on my own screen, so that's a good sign. Anyway, the Jalisco cartel, apparently the Mexican government has taken out their leader, and I have no idea who this group is. They're called the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, which seems like a weird name for a cartel, just saying it sounds like a Pepsi commercial. The New Generation Cartel, like what? But anyway, apparently they're the biggest drug cartel in Mexico now. So their leader was killed. And there's like this whole very, very violent civil war happening all across Mexico between the government and the drug cartels. Man, you know, what a great opportunity it would have been for the U.S. military to come in and like assist in stomping this cartel out. I have heard they do have some role. They have some role. Apparently, one of the cartel's people, I've seen like these memos saying that there's actually a group in the cartel called the Delta Group, named for Delta Force, because some of them were actually trained by the U.S. military. But unfortunately, most of our military is in the Middle East right now, and so they're on assignment. But man, that would have been a good thing for Trump to do. You know, they got the State of the Union is coming up this Tuesday, and would have been nice, you know, to have waited on here. We're actually using our military for something that most Americans would support, stamping out drug cartels, you know. But no, we've let the Mexicans to deal with that. Also, I gotta put this on screen because it's funny. This is this was on Twitter. So here's the Mexican drug lord. El Mencho was his name, leader of Jalisco's New Generation cartel, has been killed in a military operation. Civilians are being advised to stay indoors amid cartel retaliation and street violence. Just one posted this. He thinks he's slick. He's in Qatar. Yeah, they do look a lot alike, don't they? That's I don't know. That's pretty funny. But anyway, all right. Enough of that for now. I guess we'll just have to see how this shapes up. Real quick, because we do have some Michigan things. Oh, by the way, Mark just says this week the Republican Party county conventions will be happening. Please wish me luck getting elected as a delegate or alternate to the state convention. So there you go. Good luck to you, Mark, and to anybody else who wants to go to the state convention. I personally, I can't just say I'm all that interested, to tell you the truth. I think Republicans have a bad year in general anyway, so it doesn't matter who we nominate, in my opinion. But nevertheless, if you want to go, I hope you do succeed to go, and I hope you guys do choose the best candidates. Anyway, so here is our weekly rundown for Lansing. Again, very little happened. There was a lot of bills put in the House, but you know they're not going to go anywhere, I don't think. Although I did see here's all the new bills. I did see. My new color scheme didn't work, so I haven't applied it. Oh well. Anyway, pay no attention when I just said if you didn't see last week's show. I did see this though. There's these two little bills here. Legalize harassing police. That's how I described it. And to clarify, in quotes, that peaceful protesting is not rioting. So here's the bill. We'll look at the official text version of the bill. And here it is here. This is their bill. It didn't see the light of day, but I did notice that my state rep, who is in a very tough district, Regina Miller, co-sponsored it. So she is now on record. Reggie Miller wants to legalize harassing police. And here's the bill. So this is a bill against assault, battery, wounding, resisting, obstructing, opposing, or endangering a person who is a police officer or performing his duties. And they want to clarify. They want to clarify here. It's okay to assault, batter, wound, resist, obstruct people as long as you don't intend to harm the person. As long as you don't intend to kill the cop, you're allowed to harass them. You see how that works? And they have this change made everywhere here. To cause harm and harass, with the intent. The intent is critical. If they just want to go there to yell at them, in fact, they even include this nice little exemption here. This section does not prohibit an individual from asking questions or making inquiries to a police officer, conservation officer, sheriff, deputy sheriff, constable, or the peace officer. So yeah, go ahead and ask some questions. And if they're obstructing them, impeding them in their face, well, as long as you didn't intend to hurt them, that would be legal. So that is the Democrats' bill. And they also add in this thing, as if this needs to be said, which it does not, that attending a protest is a fundamental right, blah, blah, blah. So there you go. Here are the Democrats who decided to put their name on this bill to legalize harassing police. There you go. You can find that and other things that happened this week, of course, at Operation Watchdog at rescuemichigan.com, where you can look at these other bills if you want. There's not much to them, honestly. I mean, this is a big bill. Roll back the state income tax to 3.9%. But again, it's not going to see the light of day in the Senate. So that's that. And there's some other random things, regulations on vaping, naming a road, not much. Here's a funny one. The Democrats have put in a bill to mandate landlords report your positive rental payments to the credit bureaus. So yeah, if you if you manage to not fail to pay rent, then we can force the landlords to have to report your good behavior to the credit bureaus. So there's that. But really nothing much in the way of votes. Nothing much important here. And again, most of these things only passed one chamber where they'll probably die in the second. There's no crime of fertility fraud, and some companion bills. The Republicans puts that in there. Whoop-de-doo. So yeah, anyway. So that was Lansing for this week. Not much to report. But anyway, the big topic, though, is that we have... actually, before I go to the next big topic, Mark also says the governor would also give the State of the State address on Wednesday. Do you know who would give the Republican response? I don't know that question, Mark. Yeah, and frankly, I don't think very many people watch either the governor's address nor the Republican response to it. But yes, Whitmer is giving her annual State of the State address on Wednesday, the day after Trump gives his State of the Union address. I don't know. She spent the last week and a half in Europe, going to the Olympics, going to the Munich Security Conference. I guess she wants to run for president to embarrass Michigan on the global stage, on the national stage. We get to see all these debates where her opponents are like, yeah, Whitmer, hey, you drove your state into the dirt. Why do you want to be president? Anyway, who knows? $61,000, I think it was. How much did Whitmer charge taxpayers for her trip to for her European vacation? Yeah, $61,000 on a trip to Switzerland. So there you go. But anyway, the big news, or maybe it's a lack of news, I guess, is that we still haven't attacked Iran. So that's good. I think that's, and no, I should say that is definitely praiseworthy. If Trump does not attack Iran, that is absolutely praiseworthy. And if he doesn't attack Iran, I will be very, very, very much in support of him for a very long time. That'll go along with me. However, I have to say, I don't think it will hold. I think it's a definite sign of cold feet. I think Trump knows that he is going to be in a predicament if he attacks Iran. We'll talk more about what may happen. But I think first of all, let's say the Union is coming up. And I don't think Trump wants to be in a new war while he's addressing the nation on Tuesday. And of course, also there's the issue of getting more military assets out there. Tons of military assets have been put into the region. But actually, I think it was today, Steve Witkoff explained there was these, we'll call them peace talks charitably in Geneva this past week. And here's what Witkoff had to say about how they went.
How about over with Iran?
The president asked me that this morning, and I don't want to use the word frustrated. It's almost because he understands he's got plenty of alternatives. But it's curious. He's curious as to why they haven't, I don't want to use the word capitulated, but why they haven't capitulated. why under...
I don't want to use the word frustrated, but he's frustrated. I don't want to use the term capitulated, but why haven't they capitulated?
This sort of pressure with the amount of sea power, naval power that we have over there, why they haven't come to us and said, we profess that we don't want a weapon, so here's what we're prepared to do, and yet it's hard to sort of get them to that place.
Okay, so that's what Steve Witkoff said. So the president's frustrated because somehow all of these threats have not led to the Ukrainians' capitulation. That's what he basically just said. Now, he also made some comments about why aren't they negotiating, which is clearly BS because first off, he just said, he used the term capitulate, surrender. Why haven't the Iranians surrendered? That's what their real issue is. Because actually the Iranians have said, we don't want nuclear weapons. We're not building nuclear weapons. Remember we had a nuclear weapons deal with Iran. What happened to that? Oh, that's right. Trump just destroyed it because it was a bad deal, he said. Why was it a bad deal? Does anybody remember why it was a bad deal according to Trump? Because I think the only thing that was bad about it was A, it was going to expire at some point, had to be renewed, and B, because it was Obama's deal, and we can't have that. Probably the one good thing Obama ever actually did. We had international weapons inspections. What happened with that? Oh, that's right. Israel attacked Iran, murdered the peace negotiators. Remember that? And then Trump came out and said, "Hey, I was behind that the whole time with the Israelis. We murdered all their peace negotiators. They're all dead now." And then they had the 12-day war, and then Iran said, "Okay, well, no more no more weapons inspectors in our country then, because they thought the weapons inspectors were actually, leaking their secrets to Israel. They're actually spying. But anyway, now we have 2 aircraft carriers in the Middle East and lots and lots and lots and lots of weapons. If Trump does not attack Iran, he's going to look terrible, and of course be attacked by the neocons like crazy. So he has now kind of put himself in this position. He listened to them. He listened to his idiot advisors. They said Iran's going to buckle, Iran's going to capitulate, Iran's going to back down. And so they had these peace talks this weekend, and Iran didn't back down at all. You know who else didn't back down? Russia was the other. They were meeting in Geneva, which is crazy. But apparently, because all the negotiations were done by Witkoff and Jared Kushner. Marco Rubio, nowhere to be found. State Department, nowhere to be seen. Apparently, the only 2 diplomats we have are 2 people with absolutely no diplomatic experience whatsoever, Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff. They're having these whirlwind meetings, which by all accounts were infuriating to the negotiating parties. And so Russia gave not 1 inch. Zelensky was furious about the whole thing because he was expecting, I guess, some kind of concessions or something. No, the war, it's going another 3 years of war, he says. So now Trump needs to either withdraw the troops, which is what I would support, but will clearly have negative political consequences for him because he's already put his forces out there. He's literally, we had no reason whatsoever to start this with Iran at all. He could just left well enough alone, and we have never been in this mess in the first place. But the Israelis and the Israel firsters all had to have their way. Here is the foreign policy president of the United States, Lindsey Graham. Oh, hold on. Let me remove this one. Now will Lindsey Graham pop back up? Lindsey? There's Lindsey Graham. Here's what Lindsey Graham had to say about this.
The risks associated to those who may participate in this endeavor. God bless you. God keep you safe if that day does come. Could our soldiers be hit in the region? Absolutely, they could. Can Iran respond if we have an all-out attack? Absolutely, they can. I think the risk associated with that is far less than the risk associated with blinking and pulling the plug and not helping the people as you promised. We told them to
hear that. Not helping the people. Meaning he means the people of Iran, like this guy actually cares about the Iranian people. But let's say he does. He's just saying, yeah, Americans will have to die because that's better than Iranians dying. Right? That's his allegation, is that the evil, terrible Iranian regime is repressing the wonderful Iranian people. So our soldiers must die for Iran's benefit, is what Lindsey Graham is arguing. From Tel Aviv, from Israel. Who, by the way, someone did the math. They found it. Lindsey Graham, he actually said this to the media this week. He goes to Israel every 2 weeks. He spends more time in Israel than he does in South Carolina. A war for Israel.
Go back in the street, keep protesting. Help was on the way. We have to be good to our word. So this trip is a special trip for me. It's putting a fine point on something I've been working on for over 2 years.
All right, so there's that. Jason says, we wouldn't be in this mess with Iran if Barry Hussein would not have sent pallets of money to Iran, but everyone leaves that part out. I fully agree. He shouldn't have sent pallets of money to Iran. I fail to see how that's led to this situation. We had international inspectors in Iran inspecting every part of the nuclear program as recently as last year. But somehow here we are. Here's a weird thing that came up on the tweeters today or earlier this week. This is I don't know what this stands for. U.S. Air Force Central Command, I guess. Chief of Weapons and Tactics Major Claire Rudolph, and she's complaining that Twitter randos were involved in spreading information and this was a problem. So here,
that are just studying where our airplanes go and publishing it, consolidating it. Like if U.S. analysts did some of that, we would consider it secret or maybe even top secret. But that stuff is just allowed on the open internet. So operational security, especially when you're talking about a transnational movement with hundreds of aircraft, is really, really difficult to conceal. So OPSEC is a really big concern. I think, and actually reading a recent article about the 35th anniversary of Desert Storm, it's funny that this one is the same.
Okay. So as one of these OSINT people themselves point out, maybe it's just me, but if Major Randolph here wants to complain about the Twitter randos, she should probably improve her own skills. Maybe the Department of War should consider a non-diversity hire for once, because this is a de facto admission that she is being beat at her job by Twitter randos. Brushing aside the fact she has no idea what ADS-B feeds are and has thusly displayed her gross incompetence with a short 33-second clip, I don't think she understands that information actually exists outside of the military. So, yeah. This is maybe part of the reason that Trump is hesitating to attack Iran. Just guessing. But there's no question. This is a sign that Trump is, I mean, with all these things going on, the threats of attacking Iran, the tariff policy, these are signs that this is a man who is not where he wants to be. Here's this is the White House website. Happy President's Day. Happy President's Day, everybody, by the way. There's Trump. I was the hunted, and now I'm the hunter. Wow. Yeah. How many of those Biden administration arrests have we had from you yet? Where's Pam Bondi on that, Mr. President? Where's the charge against Brennan and Clapper and Comey and Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and that other Biden, the uncle? Where's the charges on Christopher Steele or Lisa Page or what's the other guy's name? Peter Strzok. This is projecting insecurity. I hate to say that, but that's kind of where we are here. And then there's also this. This was Trump posted. How weird is this, folks? This is Trump 2 days ago. Based on the tremendous interest shown, I will be directing the Secretary of War and other relevant departments and agencies to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files related to alien and extraterrestrial life, unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, and unidentified flying objects, UFOs, and any and all other information connected to these highly complex but extremely interesting and important matters. God bless America. Well, I guess we can be thankful for the tremendous interest shown, having gotten some results here. Although, as this guy points out on Twitter, any chance given the tremendous interest shown to get those 3 million remaining Epstein files from Pam Bondi? Yeah, there's that. And then I had to post, there's a joke on X. Trump released the first declassified UFO file, and there's the file. You can see there's been a redaction in this file. Something's missing. Something very important the American people should know about. That's obviously a joke, but again, how bizarre is this that Trump is talking about UFOs? The tremendous interest in UFOs. Did you guys know there was tremendous issues with UFOs going on here? But Trump's not alone. Here's Tim Burchett, and here's what he has to say to Matt Gaetz the other day.
You've previously said on our program you believe that there are underwater bases that are being accessed through this transit from extraterrestrial beings. Given how many of these sightings are from naval aircraft and naval vessels off the coast of San Diego, is that where you believe some of these underwater bases are likely to be located?
Yeah, if they're there, there's 5 areas in our waters that I've been told by military officials and former military officials that they would have to be, because outside of quantum physics, there's no way something can travel light years. I mean, how are you going to pack for that? You know, I about to have to take a pickup truck if I want to travel from Knoxville to Nashville just for all the food and supplies I got to take. So honestly, Matt, light years, that's just out of our realm. All
right, we're all dumber for having watched that, but there you go. That's kind of where things are, folks. They're also under your bed. The aliens are under your bed, folks. This is just kind of sad, honestly. What should we talk? We should be talking about the U.S. military partnering with the Mexican government to exterminate the drug cartels, and instead we're talking about aliens. I mean, the only thing left is the demons. Why isn't Trump talking about the demons? The demons haunting this country. Well, we have had this interview with Mike Huckabee that happened this week, so that was a thing. If you have not seen the interview between Tucker Carlson and Mike Huckabee, it is a must watch. I will, obviously, we're not going to watch the whole thing here. We do have some highlights, though. Here is, and this is the thing that I think really set off a lot of whole countries. This is Tucker talking with Mike Huckabee. And Mike Huckabee says to Tucker Carlson that Israel has a biblical right to the Middle East, and it would be fine if they took it all, which is a very...
What does that mean? Does Israel have the right to that land? Because you're appealing to Genesis.
Yeah.
You're saying that's the original deed.
It would be fine if they took it all.
So there you go. That clip got a lot of very negative feedback from other countries in the Middle East, as you might say. But this is what Aaron Mate pointed out. This is amazing. This is a great point. Trump's Israel ambassador, Mike Huckabee, makes a theological argument for why he thinks Israel can take over the Middle East. Also, by the way, just this same week, Trump's Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, claimed it's very difficult to negotiate with Iran because their leaders are making theological decisions, not geopolitical ones. The hypocrisy. Although, of course, that's not what Iran is actually doing, but whatever. But that was the big thing, was Mike Huckabee, the ambassador to Israel, who probably should not have spoken to Tucker at all, but I guess he must have thought he was going to own Tucker. But my God. Here's Daniel McAdams, who is from the Ron Paul Institute, former foreign policy advisor for Ron Paul. It says, in the world I once knew, spanning from a short time in the State Department intelligence to living and working overseas for many years in close touch with the U.S. and other embassies, including Israeli embassies, to a half career on Capitol Hill, working in Ron Paul's office, to working for the Ron Paul Institute. I have never seen a diplomatic scandal like the one we have seen with Mike Huckabee, destroying our relationship with Arab Gulf nations and burning the Abraham Accords to the ground, and not seeing a single head roll. So, by the way, the immediate response to this was Saudi Arabia said we could not use their military bases to strike Iran. So, instantaneous negative military consequences for what Huckabee did with this stupid interview. And again, no head rolls. Maybe Huckabee will be toast tomorrow. Nope. But he says, when in the era of James Baker, when I was briefly at state, there's no way in hell it would have been allowed to fester for 24 hours. Yep, that happened. And then here's what Richard Barris, the pollster, said. The Tucker Carlson interview with Mike Huckabee was so humiliating for the Israel First crowd. It's completely predictable how they would react. And of course, there is all these allegations against Tucker. Israel detained Tucker and his crew before he left Israel, because of course they did. Yeah, all of these conspiracy theories about Tucker Carlson. But if you think that was the big diplomatic scandal for this week, well, I've got something for you folks that, well, let me just put it this way. If you're eating, stop, or maybe finish up, because you are about to lose your appetite. This is the U.S. ambassador to Belgium this week, Bill White. And here is what Bill White posted on X today. He's our ambassador to Belgium. Now, keep in mind, ambassadors to countries are not supposed to try to meddle in their affairs at all. That is considered extremely unprofessional and extremely hostile. Here's what Bill White, our ambassador to Belgium, posted. Anti-Semitism is unacceptable in any form, and it must be rooted out of our society. President Trump, POTUS, real Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, VP, Secretary Rubio, all of you people, you're all copying this because I want you to get involved in this. I call upon all of Belgium to do a much better job on this subject. I'm sorry, now the shouting starts. Now he's in all caps. To Belgium, specifically you, must drop the ridiculous and anti-Semitic prosecution of the now 3 Jewish religious figures, Mohels in Antwerp. They are doing what they've been trained to do for thousands of years. To the very rude Belgian Minister of Health, Frank Vandenbroek. You must make a legal provision to allow Jewish religious Mohels to perform their duties here in Belgium. It's done in all civilized countries as a legal procedure. Stop this unacceptable harassment of the Jewish community in Antwerp and Belgium. Now, you might be wondering, what is he talking about? And I did not know that this was a thing until it was brought to my attention. Ladies and gentlemen, you might be wondering, what is the religious duties being performed by these Jewish Mohels? Well, what it is something called mitzvah, which means sucking the blood off of the penises of circumcised babies. I had to look this up because I did make sure this was actually a real thing. And yeah, here it is, folks. It is a controversial traditional Jewish circumcision practice where a mohel uses their mouth to directly suck the blood from the wound on the penis of the baby that they have just chopped when they've just circumcised. Now, I don't know what you guys' opinions of circumcisions are. I tend to be I'm in the informed consent camp, frankly. I think optional but permanent surgical procedures should only be able to be authorized by, consenting adults, not by parents on behalf of their babies. But, it's just something that's become very popular in this country and other countries. I did not know that there was also a group of Jewish rabbis that believe also after you slice the baby penis and remove the foreskin, that you then need to drink the baby's blood. That's what they should be called. It should be called drinking baby blood off of the mutilated dick. That is what the government of Belgium is opposed to. And that is what Ambassador Bill White is screaming at the top of his lungs about. And by the way, the Belgian foreign health minister has responded, and this is what he responded. Oh, thank you for your attention to this matter, the guy has to say. Here is what the guy's response was. Thank you for this unhinged and impolite social media message, which is all too characteristic of today's American diplomacy. You have no business meddling in Belgian judicial affairs, not even when your caps lock key is clearly in need of circumcision. Damn. That is an own right there. So there you go, folks. That is this week in the Trump State Department. Not defending so much, just attacking foreign countries for prosecuting baby blood dick suckers. That is where we're at, folks. You are here. you are here for it. So speaking of babies and sexual violence and all the rest of that stuff, more Epstein stuff has happened this week. Michael Malice caught this one. This was another one of the many. We talked about this last week. There's these code words they use everywhere. So here's a funny note to John Podesta. John Podesta, Bill Clinton's handler, Barack Obama's handler. John Podesta. Hi, John. John Podesta. The realtor found a handkerchief. I think it has a map that seems pizza related. Is it yours? They can send it if you want. Huh. A pizza related map. Wonder what pizza might be code for. You guys think maybe pizza is code for children, right? Cheese, pizza. Pizza code for children. We talked about some of those code words that we can clearly see using. Jerky is obviously a code word. Here's another one. The press reporting Epstein stuff, though, acknowledged pizza is viewed as code for kids. Refused to even speculate as to what kind of kid grape soda could refer to. Yeah, that's in some of the Epstein files too, guys. Grape soda. Wonder what grape soda means, huh? Hey, Mark. Ashley Price. Hey, I don't know if Barry's on the chat tonight. I think you guys know what grape soda means, right? what grape soda would be code for. Speaking of this, someone pointed this out. This was amazing. I saw this. I couldn't believe it. We're talking about pizzas. Remember when Pizzagate happened? This was in like it's in 2020. This was an election season thing. The great Republican hoax of Pizzagate was a campaign talking point. These Republican conspiracy theorists and all the people investigating Pizzagate have somehow died by suicide. And then all these people that were debunking Pizzagate ended up turning out to be pedophiles. You got all these links to headlines. I did go back and look. These are real. These are real stories. These are the Pizzagate investigators who have all suicided themselves. And then you have the people who debunked Pizzagate in the mass media. Turns out a lot of them were actually themselves pedophiles. Which again goes back to the point I made last week, which is that a serious prosecutor, Pam Bondi, has more than enough to conduct all kinds of investigations. A serious prosecutor would love to investigate these things, would love to find out what Obama's handler, John Podesta, meant when he talked about a map involving pizzas. But so far, Pam Bondi's only said that she will absolutely not prosecute anybody related to the whole Epstein thing. More Epstein stuff we've got this week. Here's another little thing here. This is pointed out by some rando on X, since that's the term we are using. A convicted child sex trafficker told a biologist, produce research on transgender biology or I'll cut your funding. And there's a nice thread about this. Jeffrey Epstein also tied into the child sexual mutilation industry. So here is his email to this guy. What's his name? Robert Trivers. And he says, what do you say here? No support at all for the past 2 years, in response to requests. They offer me monkey money, we call it in Jamaica, $5,500 per semester. My God, Jeffrey, rent is $8,000. I'd like to eat, I have a modest social life, an occasional psychosexual experience. I return to Jamaica, $15,000 in jet. Jeffrey Epstein, it's costing me so much money for my psychosexual desires in Jamaica, maybe involving grape soda, right, Mark? That I need money. I need money. And what does Jeffrey Epstein suggest? Why don't you talk about doing hormones on 3-year-olds? So there you go. So there's that little story there. What else do we have? We have this one here. The Israeli mission to the United States and New York installed and maintained a security system for years at Jeffrey Epstein's apartment building in Manhattan. And there's the drop site news article about this. The revelations come from a new series of emails from Epstein, which released by the Justice Department, which show that Epstein's staff managed regular correspondence and met with Israeli officials at the mission. Those officials also controlled access to the apartment, and Epstein personally approved their installation of security infrastructure at the residence. So, I wonder, could this thing possibly be exactly what it looks like? If there's an Israeli pedophile blackmail ring, could it be that maybe? Mark says, I'm just an innocent soul. I don't feel very innocent right now, Mark. I feel pretty dirty, in fact. Feel pretty dirty. So there's this week for Jeffrey Epstein. There's a good read about that called The Empire Over Epstein. I'll post, I'll bring up on the screen real quick and then maybe post a link in the description. But really making the point here that this is beyond conspiracy theories. This is the very fabric of our country. Anyway, a worthwhile read. So yeah, there's that. I'll post a link in the description maybe. So anyway, all that said, a couple other things I wanted to mention before we go. Here's another thing. Another promises made, promises wrecked. Trump has now ordered immunity from companies for making glyphosate, which is Roundup, the chemical Roundup, which has been a huge deal for MAGA. Like Bobby Kennedy Jr. was on record saying this stuff is probably cancerous. And in a gift to the big pharma / big ag industry, Trump has just tried to unilaterally block state laws and court rulings that allow liability from cancer from glyphosate manufacturers. And there is the White House memo there saying that they are going to seek to prevent any companies from being held liable for any of the cancers they may have caused from glyphosate-based herbicides. So that's been a big thing for all the MAHA people, the Make America Healthy Again people. They've had a rough week. And then also we talked a lot on this show about Palantir, about Alex Karp, and this actually came out last week, but I think I forgot to bring it up on the screen. But here's our friend Alex Karp of Palantir, and talking about what he wants to do.
You need a higher purpose, and I also think you often need a lower purpose. Like the higher purpose for me.
What's a lower purpose?
Well, I love the idea of getting a drone and having light fentanyl-laced urine spraying on analysts who tried to screw us.
This is the guy that runs the company that makes the AI that is used by the military to murder people, including in Gaza and presumably any other place where we just like to drop bombs on people. We use Palantir's AI to come up with our targets, and that's the CEO of Palantir, Alex Karp. There, yeah, we should hit our opponents with fentanyl-laced urine. These are the kind of people that run our country, folks. I hate to tell you, but that's kind of where we are. What else? Is there anything else I want to cover this week? I think. Well, okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what the future is with Iran. Like I said, I think we're going to hit Iran. So what's going to happen there? I have no doubt we will do terrible damage. I have no idea to what extent Iran can attack back, and that's the big question. We saw from the 12-day war last year, they could do substantial damage to Israel. I expect they'll probably try to hit Israel more than the U.S. Like someone suggested, they could potentially, sink an aircraft carrier. That would lead to our country destroying them for good. Like that could lead to a nuclear attack on Iran. I don't think they will do that. But if they hit if they hit the flight deck, I mean, they could disable. They could certainly the tarmac. They could disable the air. I mean, what's an aircraft carrier without a runway? Who knows? I don't know. There's been lots of stories about Russian and Chinese people bringing military hardware to Iran. So what the outcome will be, we don't know. And of course, the other big question is, will they be able to overthrow the government of Iran? That's the $1 million question, is can we blow up a lot of things in Iran? Certainly. But Iran's an enormously big country. So the question is, will we overthrow the government? Because that's what this has been all about from day one. That was what the hope was with the 12-day war last year. That's what the hope was with the riots that took place last month, which notably did not work. The government is still in place. I mean, they could kill the Ayatollah, but I'm sure they have successors lined up, multiple successors. Iran they've just come out and just said, yeah, of course we have continuity of government plans. Of course we do. We don't know. I don't know what the CIA's plans are to activate, the Kurds or the Baluchis or whatever. Who knows? But if the government survives our attack, it will be a disaster for Trump politically. And disaster he can't really recover from. I don't think things are already looking bad. Here's his latest averages of polls. This is the average of multiple different polls. So you might not like some of the pollsters. Some of them you probably do like, but this is, again, these are many different pollsters taken over time. So this is a trend line. And the trend line was a couple of days ago. Earlier this week, it hit a new record low on this chart here. So not good. And to me, all these things scream out for course correction. course correction. Trump is not, he's been beaten by the Supreme Court on the tariffs. He's being stared down by Iran right now. Also, by the way, I saw another poll that said like Trump is really doing poorly in public opinion polls over the Russia-Ukraine stuff, which I think is probably because a lot of people are on Ukraine's side, which is also, you know, another thing that Trump could have corrected over the past year, to have talked about how, you know, how Ukraine has, you know, a bunch of Nazis running their military that were, you know, also besides being involved with just murdering tons of ethnic Russians in Ukraine before Russia went in, but also involved in the great lies against Trump. Remember Russiagate, the Russia hoax? Remember the first fake impeachment over the phone call involving the firing of the Russian or the Ukrainian prosecutor? Remember that guy? But you know, a year's gone by. Trump has had a full year now to reshape public opinion on foreign policy in Ukraine and Russia. Instead, he's just dragged out these negotiations where nothing has been accomplished, and Russia is on the verge of probably just winning the war completely. These are very, very bad situations, and Trump is going to have a rough State of the Union address to give. I'm sure he'll say a lot of, well, you know, I remember the one last year. Like that was the high watermark of Trump's administration, in my view. That was remember that speech. It was not officially called the State of the Union because his first term back, first year back. But that was an incredibly good speech. That was an amazing speech. When Trump gave that speech, I was like, man, he's kicking ass. And then like immediately afterwards, when everything started to go downhill. So now Trump's going to have to face the country and say, what exactly? My tariffs have failed. My negotiations with Russia have failed. My negotiations with Iran have failed. And for what is he going to even say that he's done for America in the past year? He's been so busy with all these foreign countries, with Lindsey Graham spending all of his time in Israel. It's just incredible. It's been an Israel first administration, and it's been to Trump's enormous political detriment. And to this day, he still has not faced the fact that he needs to correct course. And the result is what's showing up in the polls. And I have to restate, folks, I just had to ban somebody because he's made a bold accusation of calling me a TDS. But you remember how we all felt a year ago, folks, that Trump might actually save this country? And instead, things have all fallen apart, and it's gonna get worse. So that's where we are. Again, I wish I had better news for you, because I think the Second Amendment is worth protecting. I think our borders are worth defending. I think the things Trump campaigned on it was a great vision for our country, but I don't think when we voted last November or in November in 2024, we were talking about invading. I think we were talking about fewer foreign wars. Remember that? I think Trump said no forever wars. Remember Charlie Kirk? Anyway, sad times, folks, but that's where we're at. So that's all I got for this week. We will keep you posted in case things change or in case things improve. But until then, it has been another week. Mark says demons could be real. Yeah, they could be. They might be. They seem like they are. Aliens, he says, are real. I doubt that. Well, maybe they are, but not in the sense that we understand them. Anthony says aliens are not real. Another front, CGI, more deception, but this time to unite us post World War III. I think there was a reference to the alien stuff. I mean, the whole alien stuff is just pathetic and sad. I don't think anyone's catching on about that. It is what it is. Anyway, folks, that will do it for us for tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for all you do for liberty, assuming there are still things that we need that are worth doing, and I think there are. But I think if there's anything we could do that's worthwhile, the most of all thing is to try to encourage this White House to change course, because they're on the path to what truly could be a terrible atrocity in the Middle East. And as Lindsey Graham says, American soldiers may very well die. And American soldiers dying for the benefit of a foreign country is a sick and disgraceful thing. So anyway, that'll do it for us for tonight. Thanks for all you guys do for liberty. And until the next week, peace.